Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. If you're new to the channel and like what you see, please feel free to subscribe. And today we are going to swatch the 60 watercolors, or should I say 60 premium watercolors. I love when manufacturers add like premium, expert, all those things to make it sound flashy. These are the Arteza watercolors. I had these on my wish list for quite a while, and not too long ago, one day the gouache went on sale and I bought it. And I kid you not, the next day the watercolor went on sale. I was like, oh my gosh, Arteza! But I've always wanted them. These are the tubes. I actually like watercolor tubes. The palettes are handy dandy for traveling and less mess, especially if you don't have a mixing palette. However, I did buy this Tim Holtz Media Mat with the palette here. I can actually mix my watercolors on here. It's pretty fun. I did a mixing chart the other day and I was like, I'm making messes on my desk and I can clean them off. It's kind of fun when you can be a kid and just make a mess and it really doesn't actually hurt your expensive furniture. So, fun fact. But yeah, so I do like the tubes if you like to mix your watercolors, or you plan on working on something for quite a while and you don't need to take a lot of breaks, or it's not something that needs to be mobile. I actually like the tubes better. They're not as much of a pain to re-wet. The cakes are fun, but gosh darn it, those things dry so quick. You're constantly spritzing them. So yeah, and then like I said, mixing is a big one. Now, this is 60 colors. The likelihood I need to mix anything is pretty low. That said, maybe there's a certain shade I want. I do have some 5 watercolor tubes, primary color tubes. I will show you guys how 5 can turn into a lot of colors, and that'll be a different video, but that's kind of my big thing with tubes, but also water control. I feel like I'm a lot more in control with the water. I don't know. It's weird, but anyway, let's talk about the Arteza ones. So, kind of like with the gouache, Arteza does have the light fast reading. They also tell you the transparency reading. Now on gouache, that's kind of funny because it's like, well, gouache is opaque, but the watercolors, that's actually pretty important. Watercolors should be translucent anyway, but I mean, some of these are not, according to this chart. So I'm like, how's that work? Isn't this watercolor? Here's the thing. The more water you add, the more transparent it gets, but I am kind of curious. So they have the transparency reading, and they do have the pigment number. I have been buying a lot of watercolors lately that don't have the pigment number, and it's kind of frustrating, especially when you want to see what pigments were used to make the color. Pigments are universal. Now, the name a manufacturer gives that pigment is a whole different, story. However, like PW6 is a white pigment. So you'll see that a lot. Now, see these ones here where it says, let me zoom you in and focus. These ones here where they're not translucent, so the square is filled in, you'll notice PW6 white has been added to them. So that's probably why they're not translucent, because white is very milky. You'll get PW6 mixed in with like pastel tones and whatnot. So that's one thing to know. You can always Google watercolor pigments, and basically they kind of give you a rundown of what the color is-ish, because a company might call something chartreuse green, but what you really want to read is the pigment. And once you get to know the pigments, you're pretty good. You can be like, oh, okay, I know what that color is going to look like, because they've used PB23 or whatever, you know what I mean? So that's something to keep in mind. Now, PW6 is what Arteza is using as their white, and they use it in a lot of these colors. So, I mean, yeah, a lot of these have their white mixed in. Like, holy moly. So, I may end up making a lot of my own colors, especially if I got a lot of milky looking ones. We'll see how they swatch out. Anyway, enough of that lesson. I'll do a more in-depth lesson on pigments if you ever want to know. The list of pigments out there, guys, is ridiculously long. So it's not something I could just be like, let's go over this. So the little tubies are 12 mLs, which is 0.4 fluid ounces. They have a little plastic lid, and it is a metal tube. Let's see if I can, okay, and then see, there you go. See, it's a pretty thick color, but thick because there's no water on it. So on it, it says Arteza Premium Watercolors, and then each tube also has Arteza's numbering system, the name, light fast, transparency, and the pigment all on the tube. So that's pretty cool. And then they're all just shoved in here. Now, unlike the gouache, where it was actually 48 colors and 12 metallics, this is 60 colors, no metallics. So we are going to swatch them. I'm like, which way did I make this chart? We're going to swatch them. And you're probably like, what's going on with your chart there? So this is the Arteza watercolor paper. I thought it'd be kind of, you know, nice to swatch Arteza on Arteza. However, I was trying something different. I used a watercolor stamp, and the company calls it a watercolor stamp. What made it a watercolor stamp was that I used Versa ink, which is a waterproof ink, so that it wouldn't run with my water. If you were to go, say, use like a water activated or water soluble ink for your stamp, then that is no longer a watercolor stamp. It will gladly flow with your watercolor. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I just had this little row of like 6 rectangles, and I just kind of stamped them through using the waterproof ink. And then I wrote the Arteza number and name. I may go back later and add the pigment number, but I doubt it because that would require effort. So yeah, but yeah, I'm going to sit here and swatch them. I did kind of make my chart a little wonky because this was honestly like the 4th attempt. Stamping is not easy. I was trying to line it up and I'm like, no, it's crooked. And my OCD can't have a crooked chart. So, but basically I'll be swatching. It goes in this order. So coming across here. And the reason I'm doing that is I want it concentrated here and then lightened as the water increases towards the end. So yeah, I'll be swatching that way, even though the wording is this way. I know, but it's my chart. I'm the one using it. So we'll get going. I'm just going to use a Transin water brush. This is just a round number 3. And I'm of course going to have 2 jars, one with clean, one that'll be for dirty water. And the reason for that is, well, you want to clean off your brush, and then if you need to re-wet it, you don't want to stick it in the dirty water. That said, I often end up mixing them both because I'm in such a hurry. And then I'm like, oops, oh well, whatever. It really doesn't transform the color that much, except with white. But we're swatching white first, so it doesn't really matter, does it? But yeah, what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to swatch these with music for you guys. So you can just kick back, watch me swatch. I'll speed it up a little so we're not here for what will probably be a while because these are tubes and I need to kind of squeeze them out and clean up my mess as I go. So yeah, we'll just kind of do that and go from there. I probably will do my usual dotting technique where I just get a little bit, kind of dot it, get it wet and drag it out. You just have to be very cautious with how much you dot. So keep that in mind if you use the dot method. But I'm gonna get my water, get my brush ready, and you guys sit back, relax, and enjoy the swatching. Okay, so we have swatched our 60 watercolors. It's kind of funny. Some of the tubes were like you pull off the cap and it was practically like shooting out, where others it was like not so much. But that could just be pressure and moving around during shipping, or they actually overfilled them. Multiple things, but color-wise, we aren't too bad here. I mean, this is a set of 60, so obviously they're going to add a lot of white and give you some pastel colors. I mean, I don't even need to look at the box to tell which ones already have the white mixed in. And that one, that one, that one. I mean, it's really easy to spot them. You spot them like a mile away. So yeah, I mean, you can only do so much with 60 colors. Although I have seen 60 color palettes without that much pastel. That said, if you were hoping for pastel colors, this will have it. I mean, right down to your taupe, your sage, your jade green, your ice blue, your violet tulip, your mauve, your blush pink, your ballerina pink, peach, apricot, all of those. And then, of course, you know, those ones up there. If you're wondering why my purple's down here at the bottom, that was because when I made the chart, I was like, okay, I know there's 60, and I got to black here at the end. I'm like, where's this other one? I had skipped when I was swatching them, so that's why lavender's down here. It's gonna bug me, and I'll probably have to redo it. It's supposed to be like right here. But yeah, overall, these aren't a bad selection. That said, I kind of want to play with them. I know I usually just like do a swatching video, and then I'm like, okay, bye. But I thought it would be fun to, I don't know, do something. Mix some, see if we can have some fun and see how they work on paper. So I'm going to peel off my little thing there so I can just use my palette here and clean it off. And yeah, let's see what we can do. I probably will avoid the ones that already have the white mixed into them. There's quite a few though, so I'll stick to some colors and see if we can make some blend or mix some colors up, and then that'll show you guys, like, so you don't actually need 60. So like, oh my gosh, even their Naples yellow has white in it. Oh yeah, it definitely does. So we'll try a couple colors. So yeah, I'll grab some colors so you guys don't have to sit here painfully and watch me go through it and find the ones that aren't mixed with white already, and then we'll make our own mixes and see what we can do. Okay, so just for fun, I had to grab some unadulterated colors here, meaning colors that were not made from other colors. And you know, obviously there are only so many colors that are pure, but anyway, I have my lemon yellow, I can never say this, fallow, whatever, that blue. And then I grabbed the Scarlet Red, so let's have some fun. Now, I am just going to squeeze a little bit off to the side here. You won't see it. The Scarlet Red is juicy. Look at that thing. That's, I'm gonna have to, kind of like I said, it's hard to tell if they were just pressurized when they're shipping or what, because some will just like pop out at you, others not so much. But yeah, I'm just putting them over here on my glass palette. Let me see if I can slide you guys over there for a sec, just so you can see. See, just putting them on my glass palette. And then I'll just be pulling and mixing off to the side. So let's start with a little bit of blue and a little bit of yellow. Quick color lesson, what does that make? Just add some water to it so it's actually movable. Oh my gosh, I love this glass mat. Look, I can just add as much water as I want. Let's see, I can make my palette over here and I can still play over here. So this was kind of a 50-50 mix of those two. And I made green. All right, let's grab blue again, some red. Now this is more of a 75 25, using more of the red than the blue to make a really dark red. That said, say I want not a dark red, because I guess I should swatch all three up top real quick, right? So you have a reference. Okay, so here's the Fallow Blue. Oops, I got a little blue on that one. Hold that thought. Pull from the other corner. Okay. Here's our, what color is this again? Lemon yellow. Okay. And then let me get the Scarlet Red just so you guys can see what they look like before they're mixed. Okay, there we go. So see how if I did a 75-25 being mostly red, I got that. But now I'm going to take more blue and add it to my puddle over here. And this is more now of a 50-50. Very pretty. And here's the thing, I can add more red to that little puddle as well. Mix it in. And this is the fun with watercolors. You just mix and do whatever you want. Add a little more water. See? I made a really dark blue now just by mixing a little bit more of my blue and red together. Now, if I were to take this same color, and I'm just going to pull some off to the side here of my, let me slide you guys over there so you can see real quick. So I pulled some from this, and I'm just adding some over here. I'm adding more water to it. Because believe it or not, water helps lighten your watercolors. As I fling it everywhere. Watercolor's messy. All right. So now I have that same one, but it's watered down. Ta-da! See? The miracle of water. That's why I love watercolors. All right. I'm going to take some of my yellow in a pile, some of my red. Now, this is mostly a 50-50. Well, I'd say a little more red, but see how it's getting orangey? It's now more like a vermilion. But if I add some more yellow to it, just gotta make sure I don't accidentally grab the blue with it. So I've added a little more yellow. Also gonna add a little more water. I did pick up some blue, so we got a little, let me add more yellow to my palette though. Hang on. These caps, I hate these caps. They kill my hands because the little like knobs on them, they just kill my fingers. Okay, I'm gonna add more yellow to that now so we can get more orangey. Just get a little bit more in there. This is going to be a little bit of a muddled orange because some of my blue got dragged into it. So, but see how we're going. So that was just a little bit, a little more. And it's amazing what you can do, like 3 different shades. I mean, this is me being really sloppy and playing around. If I wanted to be like really serious about it, I could. But like say I took, you want to see how to make mud, I'm going to add some of my blue to what I made here. And now I have made mud. It's an orange tinged mud, but it's still a mud. So obviously not every color can go together, but that's kind of where color theory comes into play. I'm gonna add some of this to it. Let's see if I can make a really fun wine red color, but I don't know if I have enough on my palette. Let's see if we do. Yeah, perfect. See, wine red. I just took a little bit of my green that I had left over and then a little bit of the blue that, the deeper blue that we had made, this one here, and just mixed them around. But I mean, we have 3 colors here, and already I have made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 colors. 10 if you want to count my orangey mud that I made on purpose. But yeah, 3 colors, and I've already done that. And you can still make plenty more from that. It's just a matter of, you know, how much of each one you mix together. But these mix really well, and this is why I like the tubes, because you can just sit here and play with these all day long. But like I can make this green here because I've mixed a blue. This blue here that we made, I have added a bunch of yellow to it. So now here is what we get. So this blue, I added the pure, lemon yellow to it, and now we have the green. Now I can pull some off to the side of my palette. I'm gonna add a bunch of water to it to lighten it up. Now it's just more translucent. And it will dry lighter too. I mean, remember, just like with anything, if it's wet, it's gonna look, darker. Where's my white? Probably all the way over here. Okay. Oh, glorious white. Let me get some white on my palette. So, I know the pastel palettes are super cute to buy and so adorable, but you actually don't need to buy them. That said, they are fun. But I'm going to just take some of that white. I'm going to add it to that green I made here. So I've added white to this one. Well, this one might be hard to see. Let's see how I just made a pale sage by adding white. Didn't have to buy a palette, I just made it. And you can make it translucent. I know it looks really opaque right now, but you just add more water. But I'm going to take some white and add it to this little wine color. Now this is going to lighten this one up quite a bit because I'm adding a lot of white, but I'm going to make kind of like a vintage rose color or an ash rose color. See? Pastel. I'm going to take that same white. I don't know if I have enough blue left. Let's see if I can pull some over here just to show you guys. Now I'm making these kind of thick. You can add as much water as you want to thin them back out. But see, I just made a nice, using this blue here, I added water to it, and now I have kind of like a, oh gosh, well it's a pastel blue, but I'm trying to think of a better word for it. But I'm going to pull some off to the side and add more water to it. And see, you can still take away that opacity and make it translucent. So it's just a matter of how thick you have it on your palette. So like if I pull some of that color here off to the side, add a little more water this time. See? It's not as opaque. But yeah, quick mixing lesson, guys. I'll just show you. See my little mess over there? I know, it's so scary, but it cleans up so nice off this thing. But yeah, so already now adding in the fourth with the white, we've made even more. But again, I took colors that I had already made from just those 3, ignore the one that got a little blue in it, and I had, picked up and made all of these colors. And then I was able to also just add white and make pastels. So if you're ever like eyeing a pastel palette and it's like a fortune, just remember you can go buy a tube of white and just add it to your colors. Does it require making a mess and mixing some stuff? Sure. But I mean, I just made 1, 2, 3 pastels, lickety split. So always keep that in mind. And I was just wanting to fool around with these for a little bit and with you guys. And these aren't too bad. I mean, really not bad at all. They mix well. I have no complaints there. I will definitely plan to use them, but I'm trying to see if I've already, because I know some of these are already mixed together to create what we have in our 60. All you have to do is look at the tube or the box lid here without putting it in the paint. See, it'll tell you the palettes that have already been mixed together. So a lot of these colors I made here have already been, you know, done for us in the 60 count pretty much, but still it's fun to play. And if you're ever like new to watercolors and you're not ready to commit to one huge monster box, I mean, I bought the set of 60 for pure laziness because I mean, see, I can mix all these, but if it's already done for me. However, if you're new to watercolor and you don't want to spend a fortune, like go to your local art supply store and just grab these 3 colors and go have fun and make whatever you want. Like if you do a 50-50 mix, 75-25, 60-40, I mean, the amount of each one of these creates something completely different. And then of course you can keep combining on top of that. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it gets fun. And then, of course, if you want your pastels, then while you're there grabbing these 3, just grab a tube of white. Just make sure when you're buying these open stock, not Arteza, but any watercolor brand, you make sure you read the pigment. You obviously want a pure pigment. You don't want something that says, oh, let me find an example. You don't want one like this Prussian blue here that already says PB15 and PB23 created this. So PB15 is our Fallow Blue, which is right here. That was mixed in here with a PB23, which I'm trying to find it on the box, is the violet. Yeah. So they call it violet in this set. So they took this one and the violet and made this one. So it's a good little mixing lesson too, though. If you're new to mixing watercolors, you can buy a big set like this and then you can see what pigments they use to create what colors, and then you can kind of use that as a guide. I mean, this was like 30 bucks. It was not very expensive. So that's why I bought the whole set, but I have plenty of sets where I just take a few colors and create a whole bunch of whatever I want and have some fun. But yeah, guys, these aren't too bad. I will definitely be, you know, painting with them and using them for some backgrounds. I left them pretty thick on here. It's going to be thick if you do the dot method. You know, and I do that with these tubes out of sheer laziness because it's a lot to clean. But they're still pretty transparent once they're watered down. So that's good, especially these ones with the white in it. They still have a good transparency, and even here I've shown you, you can keep watering them down. Although that is still pretty opaque, lines would show through it. But yeah, these aren't too shabby. I'm gonna play around with them more before I like do an official review, but I normally just sit here and swatch, and I thought, you know what, why not play with them a little and then also do a quick little lesson. Now, I know you guys have asked for a color mixing lesson, and I will do that, so don't think this was my my mixing lesson by any means. I just thought, well, I've got watercolors in front of me. I'm already swatching. Why not mix them real quick for you guys too? But see, if I only had 3 Artezas, well, 4 technically because of the white, I've already made all this using that. So always keep that in mind before you buy a huge palette. If you buy a huge palette out of like sheer convenience, then totally do it. But don't think you can't get those colors outside of it. You can make the colors. It's just a matter of mixing them. But anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out with me while we swatch some Arteza watercolors. And until next time, take care.